Hi, and welcome to the 2 Minute Warning. I'm your host, Perry Busby. The 2 Minute Warning is brought to you by the West Side Gazette newspaper, one of South Florida's oldest African American owned newspapers. And the West Side Gazette, joining me tonight is the publisher of the West Side Gazette, my co-host, my good friend, Mr. Bobby Henry. Bobby, how you doing, my brother?
As I always say, and it allows me to get myself ready, I'm terrific and getting better.
Good.
It's always good to be with you, Perry. This is the first show we've had since Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, we had a week off. We finally on the road where we're doing this consistently. So finally glad to see us being consistent.
Well, it takes some time, but it all comes out. It don't come out in the wash, it come out in the rinse. Right?
That's right.
But man, go.
Yeah, so no, it's Thanksgiving, so we need to catch up. So what's been going on?
Well, man, I just want to say we surprised our daddy. My daddy hadn't seen the girls in quite a while, so my sisters and I and Stevie, my brother, we went up and we surprised him. So that was good to see a smile on his face.
Oh man, I bet there was.
Yeah, he's aging with grace. I was sharing with our guests. We are them. We are our parents at this point. We're next. We're on deck. So we need to get ready. But I said all that to say it was good seeing my daddy.
Good. Yeah, it's always good to hear when he's in town, and always good to hear his voice. And so I'm sure that was like any father, you'd be glad to see all your kids.
Right. And another thing, on our way up, traveling 95 north, you have to go through Brunswick, Georgia. So as we were going through Brunswick, they were announcing the verdicts, if you will, and so we heard
the Ahmaud Arbery.
That's correct. That's
right.
So we heard it, and all of us said, let's turn around, let's go to the courthouse, let's go see what it's all about. And he said, "Now we toyed with it for a minute, and we passed the exit." And I said, "Hold up, nope, we're going back." So we turned around and went 16 miles back and went into the town of Brunswick, Georgia. Very picturesque scenery, coming on the canal, big boats, the whole works. So anyway, we get to the courthouse and we see all of these people. We missed Marcus Arbery, Ahmaud's father, and the 87-year-old lady who stayed every day during the trial. We missed them. But we had an opportunity to talk to the mayor, to one of the sheriffs, and to a family member.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The situation there is no different than any other place, where black folk and white folk live. The sister, Ruby was sharing with us how her family was a no-nonsense family. And the police department and the people in town knew this. So they were not going away easily, But it was just great to be there, to see the support, to see the young people, to see some of the Black Panthers, to see this other group, to see everybody working together to try to get to the end of this particular road. And it was good, man. We really enjoyed it. So.
Oh man, that was great. Yeah, and to have that verdict come out in such a resounding manner, just right on the heels of that Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, just let you know, man. We there's a lot of fight ahead.
And brothers and sisters, and those who believe in the cause, we got to come together. You know, 'cause
Right.
this the way this country uh, uh, seems to, I don't want to say want to go, but it's being directed. It's awful, man.
Yeah.
You were sharing with me some of the shootings that have occurred here recently.
Yeah. Again, man, gun violence during this time is just really um, showing itself in some senseless um, murders. We had the young man Otis Anderson, who played for University of Central Florida and had played briefly in the NFL. He died as a result of what seems like a domestic violence issue. He was killed by his father, which is just tragic. And again, we got another school shooting in Michigan. Uh, and the list goes on. And again, it's just this. We've kind of come to this point where we hear gun violence and it becomes just a normal news item on the evening news. It
Yeah,
seems like.
yeah. I don't know if it's if the news media is trying to deaden us to this violence, or well, no, I can't say that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it is there. It is happening.
yeah. No, I mean, and it's a valid question. You have to wonder: is it that, or is it trying to trigger
Hmm.
us? I mean, and there's a lot there's a lot of research that's going on into that in terms of social media and how we are seeing, um, in some ways, there's a good side. We're getting exposed to some news issues that wouldn't normally be covered, and we've seen the positive side to that. But then, just from a mental standpoint, where our kids are now growing up thinking um, that they will have a school shooting in their lifetime. And man, that's the scary thing when you consider your grandkids and now having thoughts of a school shooting.
Wow. I don't know, man. It's brain overload. Uh,
Yeah, it is.
you want to get the best from your students. You want them to be focused on learning, to be open to education. But it's extremely difficult for a student to sit in the classroom and worry about ducking bullets, or the latest bomb threat or whatever. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and in addition to that, you just now have to wonder, uh, with now this immediate push by some right string extremists now began to uh, take control over school boards. We see that that's a part that this right wing conservative movement is doing in some areas as a way to, as they say, counter critical race theory, or the threat or the perceived threat of critical race theory.
Mhm.
Uh, we've got some issues now because we are now leaving education into the hands of uh, some of the most derelict
Mhm.
and ill-prepared people around education. So man, we got some issues.
Yeah, Perry, I still maintain, and I say this, that the decision that came from Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954 in Topeka, Kansas, when they said, we will give you separate but equal, with all deliberate speed, and that speed has not come as of yet. So my thoughts and my belief is that if it's any arena or any specific activity or right for anybody to hold anybody down, it would be in the education arena. You know,
Hmm.
so that those are my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it. You know,
Yeah.
and I just see being a product
Yeah.
of Broward County school system. I've seen some issues. You know, I quit school my senior year, so I've seen some
Mm.
issues. You know, I was told by the guidance counselor that I'll never forget him as long as I live that I wasn't going to graduate. So anyway, that's another story for another
Yeah.
day. So I know how harm could be inflicted upon a people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's something to be said when we hand over educations to our oppressors.
yeah.
I mean, that's just something to be said, in the logic of that in the first place. And
Mhm,
so,
mhm.
um,
Speaking of that education, I was at St. Thomas University College of Law today, and
mhm,
Attorney Benjamin Crump announced uh, the construction or the fundraising part of building a center for social justice, and that was a remarkable um, uh, atmosphere. The leverage and the people who are involved with this, and the commitment that they have. Ms. Fulton was there, Trayvon Martin's mother, and of course the made mention of those of our brothers and sisters who have been killed and murdered, where Attorney Crump was representing them. So they have decided to create a center for justice. There's a sister down there, and I'm trying to find her card. Uh, oh Lord, where's this sister's card? I can't. Anyway, she is the first dean. Oh, Tamara Lawson. She's the first black dean of the university here in the university system. And she
mhm,
is pushing with all her might to galvanize and create a center where people of color can learn the law and come out and be a social justice fighter. So
mm,
that was indeed
great,
an awesome
great.
experience. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man, that was yeah. And to move things along, we still have in the news the latest um, in the fight for the congressional uh, District 20 seat that was previously held by the late Alcee Hastings. Uh, Sheila Triflis McCormick uh, was announced the winner, but we found out in the last 72 hours or so that Broward County Commissioner or former Broward County Commissioner Dale Holdness has filed a lawsuit on several issues regarding her candidacy and that win. Um, I guess I'm saying that just to say it's in the news.
Mhm, mhm.
We do know that candidates have a right to ensure that the vote was counted right. Um, but we're here,
Mhm,
and so it says a lot. As I said, every candidate has this right, but we are really facing an issue now with uh, I guess there's a growing skepticism in vote counts, and and it sounds funny to hear me saying it because we started the 2 minute warning on the issue of votes and the legitimacy and how to ensure election integrity. So I'll be the first to say, yeah, I'm always skeptical, but we do have a sense of obligation to kind of help our community understand when the process is over, it's over. And that's all I'll say about that. When the process is over, it's over. And so we live to fight another day.
Yes, yes. And this special election, this whole atmosphere surrounding the special election has really um, galvanized in some instances and has split in others. The community and their feelings. And it has yet to be netted out, if you would, or hashed out. There's still some concerns
Yeah.
When things are still.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I mean, and if you've been a product of high school sports, it's hard losing to a rival.
Mhm.
Especially if you know that was a questionable call along the way, or you thought something should, but you live to fight that another day.
Yeah. Oh, they took the air out the football.
They were stealing our signals. I mean, whatever it is, and so if they cheating, I mean, what's those saying? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to win.
That's that Beaumont stuff, man. We don't do that in Broward County. We don't do that.
But it does. Go ahead.
And we have invited, and will continue to invite those who were running for office to come back and have a conversation, because we need to. You can't pick your basketball and go home. We got to come back and talk about this to see where the community needs to go.
Right.
Let's stop playing tennis and golf, individual sports. This is a team effort, man, and we got to come out and do it.
Right.
So
And to that effort, to you, our audience, we thank you for joining us each week. We do this because of the feedback that we get from you, and we're inviting guests so that they can talk to you, because we want them to know that this isn't just Bobby or Perry saying this, that this is actually the word on the street.
Yeah.
And sometimes our elected officials don't like to hear that or ignore the street, but the streets do speak.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to give them the opportunity to come talk to the street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. I was doing something. I see Attorney Crump just sent a picture of $1 million check being presented toward that effort. So and we have extended the opportunities again for folk to come back and be a part of the conversation. Now with Dr. We got a special guest tonight. It is Dr. Osgood. And we didn't want to bring somebody on the show because we didn't tell her that we would. So, but our show is open for those who we choose to come, that want to come and be a part of the show in the actual studio aspect of it. And I didn't want to surprise Dr. Osgood with that, so we didn't do it. But that's what we want to do. So.
Yeah.
Perry, why don't you introduce our guest, man? But before you do that, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can just. Now the thread to this song is what I'm getting to. There you go. Yeah. So our next candidate is ready to learn. All right? All right? All right, let me do this. Okay, I did my part.
Yeah. All right. I like that.
I own the rights to this song.
Well, as has been said, our guest tonight is Dr. Rosalind Osgood, um, Broward School Board trustee, District 5, right? If I'm correct. Um, I'm not. She has quite an extensive resume, and I'm not good with resumes, but I do always like to bring people on with who I know them to be as a person. And in fact, Dr. Osgood doesn't know this, but um, her when she announced her re-election campaign, I think in 2019, I think getting ready for 2020. That was the first campaign that I had ever gone to visit. Being new to Broward, I really didn't know anybody, and somehow I got an announcement on Facebook to that Dr. Osgood had a campaign event, and I went there. And not only was that my first event, that was the first event where I saw you. I had heard of you, and I was looking for Bobby Henry, and lo and behold, Dr. Osgood called Bobby up to speak. And so she was the impetus for really getting us to meet. She did not know that. Um, I've had an opportunity to since that time because Dr. Oscar gave a very dynamic speak that day, so much so that I even signed up to volunteer for a campaign that day. And I went on to visit St. Luke Church, and then that's when I realized that not only was she a school board trustee, but she was also a minister and holds a significant stature in that, in being the first female called preacher under the late Dr. McKean Carter. Being a Baptist preacher kid, I know that breaking that ceiling of women in the pulpit is quite an achievement. And since then, I've seen Dr. Osgood at the forefront, speaking forcefully on quite a few issues, starting with the first attempted removal of Runcie. But she's been a strong advocate when it comes to our children. And I have, and she's also president of MOTCO, having worked for a community development company before. I know how that is to try to help develop a community. So her hands are deep within this community, and so she holds shows a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate her stance. And so I'm so glad to have her join us tonight. And so without further delay, Dr. Rosalind Osgood, how you doing tonight, Dr. Osgood?
I'm good. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Just fine.
Very well. Thank you, Roz, for Dr. Osgood for joining us. I know you had some prior issues you had to deal with, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. Yeah, today has been a usual day. I went and visited a school. My 87-year-old granddad is in the hospital. One of my sorority sisters lost her mother unexpectedly last night, so I joined her and her family at the funeral home today because sometimes a ministry of presence is really helpful to people when they're going through. And then I had to make sure my people here at Modco that needed masks had their masks.
Oh yeah, you have a busy schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, Dr. Osgood, let's get right into this. Now, we know that you have done some extensive work on the school board. You've been a knight in shining armor. You've been out on the forefront. I'm not gonna cut. I'm gonna cut to the chase. So, what is it that you want to leave the school board and jump into this thing in Tallahassee?
So it was extremely difficult for me to leave the school board because I really love the school board and all of the wonderful, amazing students that I'm able to connect with. My kids, kid with me all the time during Thanksgiving and Christmas as to how they had to get used to me talking about all my other children. But as a leader, you serve your community as you are needed. And when we look at the extremely hostile environment in Tallahassee toward public education, the lack of any sensible attempt to deal with gun violence that's running rapid in our community, when we look at all of the social media threats, the fights, and the different things that are going on with our kids, and this whole notion of mental health, when we look at how the elderly is aging in our community, and there's really no systematic way of helping and assisting them. The opportunity came for me to run for this seat. Many other leaders in our community that I respect very well decided to run for another seat. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. So I decided to go up to Tallahassee, where a lot of policies are made on the state level for school districts, for local communities, and then as a local elected official, you have to set policies around those laws that have been given to you in Tallahassee. So I decided to offer myself for this seat. And I have had people ask me, well, what are we going to do on the school board? You did such a good job on the school board. And it's kind of interesting because some of those people didn't think I was doing a good job on the school board. So, as a public servant, you serve your community, you do the best you can, and you don't just stay somewhere because you're comfortable there. You have to level up as a leader and try to offer yourself to help your community on another level where you can serve it. So that's why I'm running for for State Senate District 33, because traditional public schools are under attack. Voters' rights are under attack. So many voter suppression bills came out in the last legislative session. And I just believe the same way that I have engaged the community here, I will be able to do that in Tallahassee. I don't operate in the space of a policymaker as an individual. I think it's very important that the community is empowered with information and knowledge. I think it's very important that people know when they bring stuff forward that's going to impact our community, that they don't just see the people that are elected, but they see the community. We have the capacity to get on buses, catch the train, do whatever we got to do to show up so that people will be able to look in our faces and know what we feel and how we feel about certain issues. So I'm looking to go to Tallahassee, but I'm also looking to take this Broward County community to Tallahassee as well.
Okay. Dr. Osgood, you said something now, and for me, I want to analyze this. Miss Edith Gooden says, "Thank you, Dr. Osgood, for your service." But I want to say this. You said that some individuals saw an opportunity for them to. It was them, as opposed to what was the best for the community. I know you don't want to comment and speak for nobody else, but for those who we've talked to, and I'm sure the conversation has come up. When you do something for yourself as opposed to your community, you said a once in a lifetime chance for them. Okay, so does that mean? I won't ask you this question. I'll just make a statement. That means to me that it becomes a me situation as opposed to what's best for our community. You know, so I would, and I just got a text. I would ask that type of mentality or behavior be further washed out so we could understand. So we all need to understand that if our leaders are totally concerned about them and not the people, then we're going to be right back in the same place where we've been for a long time. So
Well, if you would allow me, I would like to respond. That was not the intent of my statement.
Okay.
Congressman Hastings served our community for a multiplicity of decades, and in many instances opened the door and took a lot of hits that many of us have the opportunity to be in public office. When a congressional seat comes open, it normally only comes open if somebody resigns or if they get voted out or if they die. That seat became available, and many individuals thought that they could serve the community in that seat. I don't know what their thinking was, and there's different opinions about it. Just like there's different opinions about me leaving the school board to go to the state. And it's interesting when people comment about you making a move. So I'm leaving the school board to go to the state because I believe that I can serve the community on that level, and we can have a stronger voice in Tallahassee. We can work to make the changes together. Those individuals that ran for the congressional seat, that might have been their same thinking. But when you look at the facts, and I'll just talk about myself since I can speak for me, I'm leaving the school board. It is a sacrifice. It is a $20,000 pay cut. It takes me out of my immediate community that I love, work, live, and play in. I love my community in Broward County. It takes me into a whole new environment, a whole new political scene. But as a leader, as you guys said earlier, I'm ready to learn. I have to be willing to level up for my community, learn a new process so that we can get the change that we need. Or I can sit on the sideline and complain about things and say what other people are not doing or what somebody's not allowing us to do, or I can get involved and try to make change. That's the same way when I was moved to run for school board. I was a parent who was very upset, who had to literally take my kids out of the system, public school system, get another job, and put them in another environment because I didn't want my sons to end up in jail. At that time, Broward County Public Schools was locking up more kids in school than any other county. But I said, once I got my kids through college, I was going to go back and try to be a part of the solution. Going to school, majoring in public administration, being under the tutelage of people like Carlton Moore we would march for crime walks and different things to change the community. I knew that I needed to have a seat at the table so the voice from the community would be at the table. So when you make decisions like this, I make them from a place in my heart. Some people will agree, some people will not agree. But at the end of the day, the individual that's making the decision have to face themselves in the mirror. And if they're making anybody in public service, if they're making the decision because it's about self, it will ultimately be their demise and it will be bad for our community.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Terry.
Well, no, I agree, and Dr. Osgood, you made some great points, and if we can just be real about this, I think anybody that gets into politics has some. You got to bring some ego into the game to even get into this. It's just a part of it, and I'm okay with that. I guess where I'm at, and Dr. Osgood, like I say, I've only known you as in this board position. Again, not having the ability to understand this rich Broward history. I'm just coming in and trying to put this together. But I see what happens here in Broward happens in Houston, happens in my hometown. And I guess where I'm coming from is I'm all for upward mobility. And I'm all for personal progress. I guess I'm asking all of these Black elected officials who were in this Black elected officials group, where did the come together come from? Because that's all I expected of you all, was to come together and to try to put forth a strategy. And now I don't think there is a strategy. Hell, we've lost what three of them out of the group. You're not even elected officials anymore. So what happens with this group? What happens with our leaders? You're in there. You have opportunity to stay there, but all politics are local. And I know Tallahassee is an issue, but for the people of Broward, their issue is their leaders here not having anything to say other than I'm getting ready to run. So how do we address this? And this is not just for elected leaders. This is for leaders even in the community who you guys need to communicate with.
Well, I'm in the community, and I have been before I was on the school board. It's common for me to be under the tree with homeless people. Those are my people. I don't see any bigger eyes or little U's. As a matter of fact, some people didn't think I should be on the school board because I'm in recovery and because of my past and my record. They didn't think I fit the bill. So I think we have to first of all be honest. We have to first of all
Mm-hmm.
look at the fact that we live in a very racist society. And a lot of times we talk about racists and the racists being people don't look like us. But the system of racism, which is a system that decides who gets what, when, and why by assigning judgment and value, can be very alluring to anybody that's making decisions. People will make decisions and they will make decisions a certain way about homeless people, drug addicts, about women, Black people, people of Jamaican heritage, Haitian heritage. So, first of all, we have to always check ourselves and understand that we all have just what I want for me and my family, you want for you and your family. When you talk about leadership, especially as an elected official, it is a very daunting task because a lot of times you're fighting the system and you're also fighting the people that you're trying to help. When I became a school board member, there were 12 F schools in District 5. Nobody was sounding the alarm about those schools. Mr. Runson and staff got together with the board, with different groups in the community, and we began to repurpose those schools. People were really upset about closing Arthur Ashe. Without the data that literally all the low performing middle school students had been dumped into one school, it never had an opportunity to really be successful. We closed Arthur Ashe and we put a workforce vocational center there. Why? Because prior to that, people in our community had to take 3 or 4 buses to Davie to McFadder, or 3 or 4 buses to Coconut Creek to McFadder. We put that center in our community, and many people from our community, adults and students, have gained and were able to get skills and training there. We added a middle school to Dillard, 6 through 12. Many people were upset about that. At one time, Dillard started at 7th grade back in the day. Those kids at Dillard get an opportunity to participate in different things at the school that they would not if they were just on a traditional middle school campus. Lauderhill 6 through 12, the city of Lauderhill wanted a high school. We changed Lauderhill to Lauderhill 6 through 12. It is a high performing high school that graduates 100% of the students each year, and they take AP and honor courses, and they make a choice not to do sports. Those were major changes that people didn't agree with at first. More people did agree with it, but there were some that didn't. But they gave us a chance to show or to prove whether it was going to work or not. And it has added a lot of value to our schools. We had Virginia Sherman Young, which is on the other side of Federal Highway with the Montessori school. We put MLK and we made it a Montessori school in our community. Those were some big changes that many people resisted. But when you're in a seat and you're looking at the fact that if you don't do something with these schools, the state's going to come in and they're going to make the decision for you. So when you are in elected office, a lot of times you're dealing with processes and things in the background that people are not aware of. I do agree wholeheartedly that as elected officials, we have to be more intentional about educating our community about the process. We just had legislation weaponized in a way in the last legislative session in the state like we've never seen before. We got House Bill 1 that tried to stop us from protesting. We got Senate Bill 90 that further suppressed our votes to say that now if you want to run for public service, another office, you have to resign to run and it's irrevocable. Win or lose, you can't stay in the seat. That was not that way before the last legislative session. It also says that the governor gets to appoint people to seats instead of allowing the citizens in Broward County to elect people in a special election. So people will go after the elected official that's offering themselves for another position instead of dealing with the real issue of the legislator and how this regime is pushing all these bills through with all of these amendments to further suppress our vote and to set us back. As a Black elected official, we work every day. Well, I work every day to move the community forward. Leadership is challenging for anybody in leadership. If you're not willing to give yourself to leadership, it can become even more challenging. I approach leadership in this way. When you are a leader, it's not a position, and I consider myself to be a student of leadership. I've written a book about it. I taught leadership at Nova. Leadership is not about lording over people. That's the first thing. People give you permission to lead them. It's many people that don't agree with my personality, but they will tell you, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to stand for what I believe in. Even if my paycheck is threatened, I'm not going to change my mind. If I think it's going to harm my community, I'm going to take a stand for it. So I think, first of all, we have to come back and regroup around the whole notion of leadership. Then there needs to be some conversations about expectations. What worked for an elected official 20 years ago does not work for an elected official today. There needs to be some expectations from that elected official, and there needs to be some expectations of the community. When I came to the school board, I had goals, I had a plan. It was called the Change Plan, an acronym that stands for Children Have a Need to Grow Every Day. And one of those goals was to have courageous conversations in the community and to get the community to prioritize education. So, any successes that I've had, the things that I just told you about that we've done in the school district, it was the superintendent, the board, and this community. The community has to be engaged in what's happening in the political arena. An elected official cannot do it as an individual. We have to make sure, first of all, that we're voting because voting and not voting has consequences. We have to attend meetings. When you look to appoint people to different committees so that we have representation, somebody has to step up and do that. And we have to see how we can have a common ground to work together. You said all politics is local, and it is. But right now we have a state government that usurps local authority. So as a local elected official, you get bills and laws put in place in Tallahassee that don't allow you to do your job as a local elected official that's elected by the people to serve them in your local community.
Okay, let me do this.
Yeah.
Dr. Osgood, given the political landscape in Tallahassee, and Republicans have control over both the House and the Senate, how do you think you'll be able to make a difference in the Florida Senate? That's one. But I want to digress for a moment. And just remember that thought. We kept talking about, we continue to talk about our Black elected officials and how the community should be involved. Well, is it our Black elected officials who are supposed to keep us informed? Is it our Black elected officials who are supposed to not make us, but allow us to realize what they're doing? Isn't it our Black elected officials that we look to for some direction? Isn't it our Black elected officials who we put in office and expect something back from them? We do have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to vote. Now, in voting, if we were to vote on what has been shown or given to us from our Black elected officials, then what would happen is just what happened. 5 folk would run for 1 seat, and neither one of them get it. So you're right. We all of us. You played team ball. You played basketball, and you know doggone well that you can't win a game by yourself, and you have to include other players, and that's where we have fallen short at. We talked about Arthur Ashe in the vocational school. Hell, when we had vocations in our school before segregation, we were able to do what we had to do for each other. And the moment we went outside of that, we created all this other stuff. We began to take from the pool that we had and disperse it. So, but the question I asked you, Dr. Osgood, I know I can go on is, given the political landscape in Tallahassee, and the Republicans have control of both the House and the Senate, how do you think you will be able to make a difference in the Florida Senate? What happened? Hello, Perry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I think we lost Dr. Osgood.
Well, the question, let's you and I talk about that question. Is that,
Well, I think this is a new season for us politically in our community. Uh, I think Dr. Osgood was right, was on point when she said we can't go back to some of the old ways, and unfortunately, that's what we've grown accustomed to. Um,
I know
and
speaking, Perry. I'm sorry if I cut you off. I
yeah,
know speaking, it says you can't put new wine in old skins. Now,
yeah,
but it doesn't say, that those old skins can't be used.
right, yeah,
And
uh,
I understand that. I mean,
yeah, yeah. And while we're waiting on Dr. Osgood, if anyone in our listening audience has a question or wants to make a statement while we're waiting on her to come back, again, we want to speak to you as well and get your input on this. Again, what is your feeling about our local leaders and where we are now? Because, like I say, to me, it's I don't want to say it's dysfunctional, but it does look chaotic.
mhm. I mean, people from all over the country ask, "What's going on?" You know,
Yeah,
I mean, it is. So, uh, oh, Dr. Osgood has some technical issues. I hope she can come back on here.
right.
We don't want it to appear uh, uh, that she abruptly left the scene. That's not it.
No, that's not what happened. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, but I am adamant about leadership and what should be expected. I'm not going to run away from that.
Right.
And I'm not the most astute person, when it comes to certain things, to understanding, the
Right.
ramifications behind
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I do expect, our leadership to be able
Yeah.
to do that. I
Right.
can't blame
No.
everything on COVID. I know. No,
Yeah.
let me
No.
think.
No. And I also want our leaders to I being a leader is hard. I do not I try not to uh
Okay, she's back.
put I try not to put lofty expectations on our leaders.
Mhm.
Uh but I do try to offer critique as someone who's a fellow professional and saying I understand what the position that you're in, and so Dr. Osgood, that's what I was saying. You made a great point.
Hold it
Being
right
an
there.
yeah, okay,
Hold it right there. Let's see. Brian Johnson just made a comment. Many black elected officials have fallen short in engaging our community and are habitually, what's that word? Man, prioritizing their own needs over the needs of our community. But some are doing right. Dr. Osgood is absolutely one of the black elected officials who is engaging our people and serving our needs instead of her own. And I could not agree with you more, Brian. We're not. That's what we're saying. It's a difference. And Dr. Osgood, because of her relationship and where she has been, makes her different. She sees it different. She's a people. She's a part of that process. I'm sorry, don't and I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
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 yeah. I am not
yeah,
sorry. I'm saying it and I mean it. Dr. Osgood, you know because you've been there. You know what we need, and a lot of them don't. So I'm not I'm not
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
sorry for that. I back you for that. I'm with you for that.
And that's
yeah,
why I started off saying we got to do a better job with engaging the community. It's just no other way. I'm very intentional about talking to people, answering my own cell phone. In the school district, I talk to the teachers, the bus drivers, because that's the only way you know what people need. I believe in the Bible, and the Bible talks about Jesus being seeing the multitude and being moved with compassion. He was moved with compassion because he was in proximity to feel their pain. Right now, our community is in pain, and we're going to have to come together so that we can move forward. Another thing we're going to have to do is let stuff go. People run against each other. Somebody say something or do something that somebody don't like, and we all do it sometimes because we're not perfect. And then the grudge or the resentment is held against the person forever. And you can't do that if you're going to make decisions that's in the best interest of the community. I don't hold grudges against people. I don't go after people. People say a lot of horrible things about me. I have to stay focused on the issues at hand and the people's lives that are dependent on the decisions that we make. You asked me earlier about
Yeah.
how can I make a difference in Tallahassee. The first time I ever was a part of any lobbying effort was because my good friend, and I'm going to say it again, my good friend, former Senator Mandy Dawson, who I met in Alcoholics Anonymous, who would bring me pamphlets for my babies because I was too poor to buy them. Mandy put me on a Welfare Made a Difference campaign. And it was right in 1996 when they were taking everybody off welfare and making them go to work. Well, for single moms, that wasn't going to get it because they would go work in low wage paying jobs that they still couldn't take care of their babies. So for 2 years, I was on that Welfare Made a Difference campaign. And my assignment was to go to DC every time I went and talk to E. Clay Shaw, who was a Republican, who didn't have my lived experience. And finally, one day I was talking to him and I said, instead of making people get off welfare and go to work, let them go to school first. I said, it wasn't until I got my master's that I was able to earn enough money to take care of my babies. I worked in McDonald's making $3.35 an hour. They made me a manager. I was making $5.75 an hour. I would literally have about $22 in between paychecks after I paid the part of the nursery I had to pay in my bills. But once I got my master's, I had money that I could save. Education is the game changer. It's the key. Let them go to a technical school. Let them do something to build their skill level, and then let them go to work. Well, he got it. He was over the Ways and Means Committee, and he went back and implemented a program at Boston College where they did this pilot, and then it became legislation. Because we are of different parties, should not mean that we don't talk, that we don't share the live experience, that we don't tell the other side of the story. As an African American on the school board, I've been able to share a different perspective. I've been able to say, this is not going to work for my community. When we're talking about a day of remembrance because of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, of the 17 people that we lost, it's not going to work for my community unless we also talk about the one that we lost at Dillard. So I think building relationships and having people listen about communities and differences in communities is how you begin to move forward, even when you're not in the majority. If I don't like you just because you're another political party, I don't talk to you, I allow you to get away without talking to me, then we never get any changes. We never give a person information that can help them at least make a more informed decision. So I'm planning just like I did here. I was new to the school board. I was in a spot, me and Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams is a really nice guy. My personality is different. I've gone through too much. I've seen my community hurt a lot. So I probably wasn't as patient as Mr. Williams was, but I was able to build those relationships. I was able to build the relationships in the community. I was able to bring the community together and then formulate what we need and what we want to get the support to get it done. And that's going to be the same process that I try to do in Tallahassee. I'm not going to make a bunch of promises because the process sometimes don't allow you to bring forth the promises that you make. But I'm going to go there. I'm going to work hard for this community. I'm going to stay engaged with the community to see what the community's needs are. And I'm going to try to represent that in Tallahassee. And I want the community to give me an opportunity to do so. I've been faithful to this community. Sometimes we don't agree, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sell you a bunch of bills, tell you a bunch of stuff or lie to you. Whatever it is, it is. And I feel that if we can come together with the truth, we can make a difference. I believe in this community, Bobby. I don't put my hat on important people. To me, the important people is the community. And that's who I represent. That's who I love. That's who I live and play with. And that's what I believe in. And when it comes to this community, I will stand up and fight for this community. I went through 3 months after going through those months about this mask mandate when people was dying every day that looked like me from COVID, and somebody's trying to make us put people in a school environment so people can actually be killed. I said, it's time for me to level up. My people need a stronger force, a stronger voice in Tallahassee to represent them. People can't just do what they want to do to us. Too many people died for that. And I think the time is now for us to come together and challenge it.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I agree. And I have no doubt that if given the opportunity, you will do just what you say. I'm looking at cause and effect. Your leaving leaves a gap. You know better than all of us what your leaving means in terms of oversight and security. Talk about the what is it? Is it Promise Keepers?
Promise
program.
Yeah. As well as what you were just talking about in terms of the mask mandate. You stepped up, Dr. Osgood. That's my biggest concern is that we won't have someone to step up. What do you see as some of the biggest holes that need to be filled by your absence?
So I'm going to slightly disagree with you. I have been very intentional about working with and mentoring people. I don't have the ego that says I'm the only one that can be on the school board and do it right. I think we have a number of people in our community that can serve on the school board and that will do a gooder job, and in some instances better than what I've done. I have appointed people to committees. I've tried to help people understand the budget because as a leader, you have to build capacity. You can't just have one person in a seat and that's the only person. Mr. Williams served for 12 years and he left the school board and he left politics altogether. And then I came. There were people that questioned that. And I was able to serve in a different way because of that time. There will be somebody that will come after me. I'm going to just say this. Our community is not hurting for credible, qualified people to run for District 5. I'm not going to call their names, but there are people that will run that are capable, that are knowledgeable, and I'll be in the Senate. Education is still my priority, one of my priorities. Just because I'm in the Senate don't mean that I'm not going to be involved with education. I got to talk to whoever that school board member is and work with that school board member, just like Perry and Bobby have done with me over the years, to know that when I'm making policies up there, how we need to work together to make what happens locally happen.
Yeah. Okay. And seeing that in this current crazy political climate that we have with this governor who you know, does the obscene, um, and sometimes likes to use Broward as a way to make a point. What do you foresee now with him making appointments, not just on the commissioners, but he'll also making an appointment for your seat. So what do you think that looks like from that side?
Well, of course, I haven't talked to the governor. I would like to, though. Um, whoever the
Bet
governor,
you would.
whoever the governor appoints in this seat is going to represent us. And I think we have to understand that when we have somebody in a seat that represent us, just like y'all hold me accountable, we have to hold them accountable. We have to call them to community forums. We have to engage them. Okay. He's going to appoint that person. There's some kind of, back and forth about whether they'll have to run again in August or it'll be 3 years. They're still trying to work that out legally. Our supervisor of elections attorney has one perspective, and then there's another perspective. But whoever the person is, they're going to have to represent us. We can go to school board meetings. Just like I get called, we can call those people. But the one thing that we have to do is we have to show up at the polls and vote in the governor's race. We all keep talking about how the governor don't care about us. And I agree. I mean, what we just went through with the mismanagement of COVID killed a lot of people. It caused massive unemployment in school districts. And I could just go on and on. But we have to show up to the polls. If we just count the number of us that are registered that didn't vote, it was enough for us to influence that election. So the first thing we got to do is get ourselves to the poll and vote. And then we got to hold whoever accountable. We talk about the governor. How many of us send emails to the governor? How many of us call the governor out? And I know y'all do, especially Bobby, because he'll say whatever he got to say anywhere. But those are the kinds of things that we have to engage and we have to do intentionally. Because what they say on the other side is, we didn't hear from them. We didn't know. So we got to take away that. I don't know. Maybe I just believe in the community too much. And anybody going through the school board, let me just say this. I led the mask mandate issue, but I had 7 other people on that board that voted with me. As an elected official, you don't get anything done without the majority vote. So you have to build those relationships. Somebody going to the school board, they have to get 4 other votes in order to make change or have any
Hmm.
impact. And we have to make sure that we're communicating that people know our needs. You also have 2 countywide school board members that represent you. So each person actually has 3 school board members. We have to
Hmm.
continue to talk to those people as well to express our needs and our concerns and what we want.
All right. No, and you agree. I agree with you on that. That we do need to get out and vote. So, what do you say when it appears that we kind of find ourselves in this part where we're talking to what we consider to be good voters, but we're not really reaching out to the community, and they're the ones that really have the problems, and they're the ones that aren't voting. Uh, they'll say, well, there really aren't any good candidates to vote for. And I know that that's an excuse, but what do our candidates need to do to engage that community? Because we do tend to run on based on, let me talk to likely voters, and because I'm not going to waste my time with people. Uh,
Well, that's surprising to me. Um, I talk to a lot of people that are not voters. They have restrictions actually where some of them are immigrants. They can't vote. But if I'm going to represent them, once I'm elected, whether they're voters or not, I represent.
mhm.
I got to know what their need and their concern is. Our problem is an overall trust problem in the whole political process because of all of the weirdness I'll use a nice word, I'll say weirdness that we've seen over the last 8 years in the political climate. It has caused many people to distrust the process. Many people that are in elected office are getting out of elected office and don't want to return to elected office because they've just given up hope in the process, in that change will ever happen. So I think the apathy is there, but we have to hold this nation accountable, just like y'all hold me accountable. If we're going to have a constitution that says life, liberty, and justice for all, as long as we got breath in our body, we need to make that happen. 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of going to DC and being a part of the Poor People's March, along with Bishop Barber, where we were out in front of the White House marching against this administration to get them to find House Bill 4, the John Lewis Act or the Voters' Right Act, to make it a priority or to make it urgent. And while I was out there, I reflected on how 20 years ago I was there marching. I'm marching now. I don't want my 7-year-old grandbaby to be there marching just because the color of my skin. I have to be marching for my voting rights. But if I give up and I don't vote, then I don't have any influence or any opportunity of making any change. To say that there are no good candidates, I think that only a person that's willing to run should take that definitive statement. You got to give somebody a try. We have to have somebody in the seat. And I would much rather cast my vote for whoever it is than to not vote and then things just fall out and they get worse. So I think when we have these conversations, we have to have them about the bigger issue. It's not about me as a person. For me, it's about the community. It's about the future of people of color as a whole. I could just go teach at a university. I love teaching at Nova. I can just go teach at a university and not have to deal with a lot of the hurtful things that I have to deal with now as an elected official. But I care too much about my community for that. I know that I need to be involved in trying to make a difference because I really feel that's what I've been created to do. So we have our difference of opinions, but how do we come together? How do we strengthen our elected officials? How do we support them? How do we find the person that we feel can make change for us and we rally behind them and give them a little grace? As I told you earlier, I'm going to have to learn a lot. I had to learn on the school board. I'm not always going to make every decision right because I don't know everything. So you got to give me a little grace sometimes. But what we do when somebody do one thing we don't like or we ask them for something, a lot of people ask me for jobs on the school board. I can't get them a job. I only hire and fire the superintendent and the attorney. There are law. It's actually against the law for a school board member to make them hire somebody. So she wouldn't give me a job. And then they hate me forever. Well, I don't have the authority to give you a job. And most people have the skills and talents in the resume to trust themselves to get their job themselves. So I think that it has to be a two-way conversation instead of always what the elected officials shouldn't be doing. And that do need to be the part of the conversation. But how can we help elected officials be stronger? How can we help? How can we share information? Even with jury duty. Right now, if I get into something and I go to end up on trial, I'm not likely to have a jury of my peers because we gonna buck jury duty. We don't understand how important that it is. So now I got to go on trial with people that don't look like me because we not gonna sign up or we gonna go down there and play crazy or tell them something to get off jury duty. So I think it's a bigger conversation.
Yeah, and also the fact that jury duty polls are based off of voters. So if you're not a voter, chances of you being picked is slim to none.
Yeah. I have jury duty coming up. I think it's December the 29th. But I want, Raj, you asked Dr. Osgood, you asked some very important questions. And one of the main ones you asked is, what can we do? First of all, if we, I know, COVID is a monster, and it has been an excuse for a lot of things not to happen. I understand that. That's why I appreciate you and Elwin Dowling for what he did to sue the government about this. But when we get back to Black elected officials, our officials, yes, we have to meet people where they are. We have to do that. You have to be willing to do that. You can't take it for granted that everybody understands, and should be doing. We can't do that. And I'm not talking about you. You know that. But for those who are seeking office, those who are engaged in this special election, those who are aspiring to be, you got to be first. You got to be conscious about what you're doing. This is not a self-centered job, but I won't get it. I won't get into that. But I just want to say you're absolutely right. We do owe it to our elected officials to hold them accountable, and they can't
Mhm.
run and hide when stuff get a little hot. You can't do that because you disagree or you sit in a position where you can take something from this black business because you don't agree with it. You can't do that. You can't isolate yourself from the community because you're in a spot. Maynard Jackson, and who else has said that he was going to make a millionaire?
Coleman Young. Coleman
Coleman going
Young.
to make a black millionaire every year. So we have to understand and get off of that plateau where you think that you're just like those who have a different opinion of those who look like us. And I'll say that. Uh,
Yeah.
you want me to bring it home and say what I really mean? No, no.
No, and as a couple of weeks ago, Bobby and I got together on an article, and I just tend to approach it really, Dr. Oscar, from that position, as in the sense that this is chess, and my elected officials are my chess pieces,
Mhm.
and if I don't know, or if my bishop is doing something that a bishop isn't supposed to do, then what am I supposed to do? Um, and so that does become to holding them accountable, uh, but also understanding this from really from a holistic approach. We've got several issues, and one elected official can't oversee it all. I mean, you being on the school board, uh, you can't oversee everything on the school board. So, to my elected officials, it's how do you get informed? How can the
Who are you
people
listening
inform
to?
you? Yeah, who you listen to? Because it seems sometimes as though people say that they aren't listening to us. So how do you get informed?
So let me say this. So I talk to people. I don't run away from any fight. We may not agree, we may disagree, and I'm not going to hate you or do anything evil to you after. For me, I have to be able to preach with a clear conscience. I have people that say all kinds of horrible things about me. I just pray that it doesn't filter to the ears of my kids because, I don't have as much control over them as I once had. But when we have an issue, if I have an issue with anybody about anything, they're going to hear from me. I'm going to talk directly to that person. I'm not going to do it in a coward way on Facebook or Twitter or come on somebody's show and take them hostage talking and going after somebody. I'm going to talk directly to that person and then I'm going to let it go. If I make a decision that you don't like, you have a right to call me. Maybe I have a perspective, or maybe I just missed it and dropped the ball, and I'll tell you that. I know I get in trouble a lot because I'll be totally honest, as a school board member, I've probably spent too much of my time hanging out with children. But once I realized my presence in the lives of those children and me spending the time with them can get better academic results, that's what I do. So a lot of adults will say to me, "Well, we don't see you over here. We don't see you." No, I'm going to pick up some girl to take her to Walgreens so she have what she need for once a month so she can go to school in the morning. It's not that I'm slighting you, but you should say to me, "I don't see you over here," or "I don't see you over there." And then I can tell you what I'm doing. So I think we have to get more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with conversations. I'm the type of
Mm-hmm.
person, if my weave ain't right, I want you to tell me, and I know I need to go get a touch up now. I take care of that. But I want you to tell me. I don't want you to just be in my face like it's okay, and it's not. Because I'm going to grow by you working with me, by you telling me. Even if we have to have some heated conversations sometime. I may not agree with you, but I'm going to go reflect on what you said to me. And it may change my perspective, but I tell you what, it's going to give me information to make a better decision. When we talk about the community, sometimes I have people show up at school board meetings. It's two people talking that they are representing the community. And I know what they're saying would not work in my community. I know what they're saying is not true. When I first got elected as a school board member, my district was a horseshoe. It went from Davie to Copings Road. It was literally a horseshoe where the majority of the Black people live. We were packed into one district. There should have been a lawsuit because that was gerrymandering against the law. Maybe my third workshop was a redistricting workshop where they had redrew the lines and drew me out of District 5. I was in District 3. So as the process went on and the different people that were doing the maps did the maps, they changed my district to an east-west district where it went from, I think, maybe 75 or 80% Black to like 60 or 50. I forget the exact numbers. So then people say, she drew us out the district. Well, first of all, I had just got to the school board, had never gone through a redistricting process. But if you back up a minute and think about it, as the only African-American school board member, it would have been to my personal advantage to keep the horseshoe with most of the Black people and not go east and west. A lot of people don't know that District 5 goes out to Pine Island Road, Sunrise, Plantation, Piper High School. All that's a part of District 5 as well. I represent that side of District 5 just like I represent this side of District 5. So just because somebody don't look like me don't mean I can't represent them. And if they're in office, it don't mean that we can't hold them accountable. But if you're going to run around and accuse me or anybody of something, at least get the facts so that you're not spreading gossip and lies in the community. We saw for 8 years or 4 years or whatever, however many, it's been too long, I forgot, with Donald Trump, how lies and gossip, he could just start a lie and it would just take off. It's people right now still saying that the election with Joe Biden and the president, the election was a fraudulent election because one person started gossiping and lying. And in our community, that poisons the community. It creates the distrust. If you have something, go fact check it. And then if you're accurate, then keep doing it. But if you're not, don't just spread lies and gossip and rumors about people that ultimately hurts the community. Because if I'm gossiping and lying on Bobby, there's some people that love Bobby. So now we got a war going on when we got the governor passing all kind of voter suppression laws, trying to block our vote and lock our kids up. We busy going back and forth on a lie that ain't even true. So some of the stuff that we communicate and we talk about, when I say that I'm the voice of the community or the community say something, I'll say to myself, is that 5 people or is that 25 people? And both of them matters. But if I got 25 people saying one thing and 5 people saying the other, then I got to pick and choose which side I'm going to go. I normally try to come in the middle to see how we can work and come to some kind of agreement. But it's not an easy process. And no elected official is going to get it right 100% of the time. I will ask you for grace in a minute if I get it wrong or I miss something, because I'm not trying to paint a picture that I'm perfect.
Okay. Yeah. It's getting late in the hour. Dr. Osgood, if you can, in 1 minute, if you can in one minute, tell us why should we elect you to the Florida Senate in District 33?
Well, I think I've proven my leadership. I think the people here know that I love and care about them. And I'm going to do everything in my being to create policies and opportunities for our community to be better, for us to have additional resources. I don't get bogged down in nonsense. I truly want to make this community better. I remember when Sistrunk was a vibrant business district for Black businesses. I still have hope that our communities can thrive like that again. I've proven my leadership. I'm the only one in my race that has experience fighting the governor. I'm the only one in my race that has experience working with other elected officials who don't look like me in some of different parties and getting proven tangible results that you can fact check. I'm willing to serve you, and I'm asking you to give me a chance in Tallahassee. You've trusted me on the school board for 9 years, and I'm asking you to trust me on the state level. And then if I don't do the job you want me to do, you have the power. You're the voter. Vote me out.
Okay. Brother Buzz.
Dr. Osgood, once again, thank you for joining us. I have learned so much more. As I said, you were the first elected official I had the opportunity to even get to see and know. And thank you so much for all that you do, not just within the realm of your role as elected official for the school board or as president of ModCo, but just being a good, concerned citizen for our community. Thank you so much. I truly feel that everything that you've done so far will definitely be an asset in Tallahassee. And you're right, the governor definitely knows you because you guys have had some real
Exchanges.
some real good exchanges. So I'm always good for a good fight. So definitely need some fighters in Tallahassee, because you alluded to something that that I think a lot of our elected officials are truly cowards, and cowards in the sense that they don't want to lose their job. And I tell people, I work every day. I live under a threat of losing my job. But sometimes you have to just go there because that's the job, and you know that's it. And I have been upset with my Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate, because I know that if the tables were turned, Republicans would do everything to muddy their progress and would be effective in some ways. And I just haven't seen us be effective in one thing. So I'm looking for a fighter, and you've shown yourself to be a fighter. So I appreciate that. So thank you. Wish you the best. Bobby?
Yep. Dr. Osgood, our prayers go out to your father. First, let me say that. And thank you for coming on and sharing with us, giving us a little bit more insight. We've had Miss Terry Williams Edding on, we got you on. And we just want people to be knowledgeable about who we are casting our votes for. This is a extremely delicate and serious situations with all the stuff that's going on. We need to know who's in the foxhole with us, because we are battling, and we need to know that. It is true that we as voters need to be educated, and as we go with the two-edged sword, our Black elected officials need to be educated on issues too, so we can get the best of both worlds. I am indeed honored for the position that we're in. We have invited everybody who was running for a position to come on the show. We have reached out to Ms. Sheila McCormick, and hopefully we'll get a response. So next Thursday we'll have somebody else to come on, and we open our shows up to the community. And Dr. Osgood, we didn't want to bring anybody on with you because we didn't tell you that. So that would not have been fair. But we will continue that to invite the community. And I'm gonna leave with this. I can soon learn to do it if you let me see it done. I can watch your hands in motion, but your tongue too fast may run. For the very best of teachers are the ones who live their creed, and to see good put into action is what everybody needs. Now, I want everybody to understand that we all need to fall in love with each other and understand that we are our brothers and sisters keepers. So thank you very much. And we may not know everything, but we do know how to love. So God bless you all and have a great night.
Good night.
Are you ready? Yeah. All right. We don't own the rights to this music, but this is just what we're listening to.
All right.
Well, good night and God bless.
Good night.
Oh, did she take us off?
Nope, we are still
We
on.
still live. Don't
Yeah,
say that.
Bobby, don't say that. Don't say that, Bobby.
Mr. Henry, can we remind the viewers that mail-in ballots will reach their homes around December 8th?
Sure.
If you did not receive your mail-in ballot in the last election, again, it's because of the new policies. So please re-request them so that you're prepared to send those mail-in ballots in. They should reach your home on December 8th. If you don't have it by the 9th, please re-request it. You can do it online. And remember to go out and vote if you're not voting by mail on January 11th. And you can also visit my website at www.osgood4senate.com. If you want to talk with me, you want to volunteer, you can put it there and I will respond myself to you. And thank you, gentlemen, again for this opportunity.
Yeah.
No,
And
you.
when is the deadline for requesting a mail-in ballot for this race? I know you said they'll get it by December 8th, but is there a deadline for them to?
They might. I think we've already missed the deadline, but we got August election coming up, and the new rule says you have to re-request it every 2 years. So what we've been telling people is just go ahead and re-request it now because there's so many games being played. Many people showed up in this last election and was turned away at the poll. At least I know of about 11 people where they wasn't even on the list and those kind of things. And one lady called and we was able to get her a provisional ballot. So if you show up and they tell you you can't vote, don't leave. Make them give you a provisional ballot so that you can cast your vote.
Yeah. And Dr. Osgood, that was one of the things that we were saying when we talked about voter education, that it's just not enough to say, well, I voted if we're not paying attention to the information on our voter records. I heard that there were several people during this last election that claimed that they were Democrats and all of a sudden became independents, or some were, what was the other thing? I think someone said that their address, either their address on their license didn't match the address on their vote ID, and they claimed that when they updated their license that it didn't update their voter. But again, these are the little ciphering of votes that we don't usually pay attention to. And so for this race, we need to make sure that our that voters know that they are Democrats, because your race is a primary, right?
My race is a primary, and there is a Republican opponent in this race.
Right, so it's not a UPC.
Not a UPC. Yeah, and if people are at the polls, there are groups like Faith in Florida that have poll monitors there. If somebody is turning away and telling you that they can't vote, find that person in the Faith in Florida shirt, and they will call into a hotline to get you where you need to be so that it's cured or you're able to get a provisional ballot. And that's why we want to try to vote early. We want to make sure if there's any obstacles to us voting that we're able to navigate it so people can vote.
Yeah. And see, these are some of the new initiatives that we really need to begin to jumpstart now, because there is going to be even more contentious races, even when there shouldn't be. But if we don't have our people there to monitor, to give us good quality data, then we're going to get caught up in some crazy fights, and it's going to be at our own peril because we're going about voting in an old fashioned, and voting has changed on us dramatically, and we need to change with it and get on the ball about some of the things that we're doing. Like I say, I don't for a candidate to give money to people to pass out cards, but not give money to find someone who can just count the people that's coming in is not good money spent. And we need to understand that elections and everything in politics is about numbers, and we need to start counting better.
Yeah, and you see how we have these special elections in such short windows? That's to disenfranchise you as a candidate. So when I'm running as an African American, I don't have 200 volunteers that people that don't look like me have. I have to pay people to work at the poll, but I have a shorter window of time to raise the money. And I want to pay people. I don't ever want them to think it's okay for us to be working and not be paid. We done been through that. We're not going back there. But you have a short window of time to get resources, to give jobs, to create jobs for people. We don't capture the jobs that are created during election time and being strategic about those jobs, as you said. Sometimes I get in trouble because I get my homeless brothers and sisters out at the polls, and people call the police on them and stuff like that. Well, they need to work too. You know, they may not look a certain way, but they are part of our community.
Okay, I just saw a note. We experienced some technical difficulties, so we have gone over time. But Dr. Osgood, can we get you on record to say that that you are willing to come back and have an open and candid conversation with us to bring our community together?
Yes, I'm willing to come back and talk to bring our community together, Bobby. You know, we go to the same church and the healing has to take place. I mean, we have to be able to dialogue and make each other uncomfortable as we grow. I'm hoping you guys will start doing something around critical race theory. I'm just blown away with all the stuff we hear about critical race theory that's so wrong that it's not. So it's these kind of shows that can help elected officials share information and get information out to help our community.
And emotional special learning too. We're gonna be all over that. So, but let's do this, y'all. We've gone over time, and Dr. Osgood, we really are appreciative of it. You know, we know. So let's. I don't want to, and I know Ariel is, and I said I wasn't gonna do this, but she's putting her little girls to bed. So.
She's been a good mom.
Yeah. So let's say good night and thank you again, Ross. Thank you again. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you guys. Good night.
Good night.